So, okay, so I know we were looking at a bird, but you just showed us a mech. I know one of the big common questions that have popped up from my audience a lot was, what is the difference? Like, what is a mech? What is a dusk? What is a dawn? Like, how do you get those, and what really defines them? How are they different from,
Yeah, sure.
reptile,
So
the basics?
yeah, of course. So these are what they call, the secret classes.
Hmm.
You have the Dusk, you have the Dawn, and you have the Mech. So in my opinion, starting off with the Dusk, there's a saying in MTTM, which was anything your Axie can do, a Dusk can do better.
Mm.
So there's been this ongoing trend where whatever build you can get, you just smack it on the Dusk. And it essentially turns whatever Axie you had into something that was faster and had the same amount of HP and sometimes even tankier.
Hmm.
So you would get this very fast brawler that is just so strong because it does a lot of damage, it's tanky, and it's fast too. All three of those combinations it's a scary combination for sure. And then we have Dawns. Dawns aren't used that much. They're not really tanky enough to be used in a different manner than birds, but they're not as fast as birds. So that's why we don't see them too often. It could be a matter that nobody knows the proper build for them and haven't figured it out.
Hmm.
I don't know too many individuals that have figured it out, and at the end of the day, I don't see it too much in the arena as well. And
Okay,
then
so that pretty much answers what one of my questions was dawns. They're kind of an anomaly, something that we don't really see too often in the arena. So I was kind of wondering like why that is, and I guess that explains it. So it's like a hybrid between a aqua and a bird, but it just doesn't happen to be as tanky or fast as either, or
yeah, so it has the speed, I believe, of a aqua, but has the HP of a bird. And in return, it has a lot of skill, which theoretically should give it a lot of extra damage. But when you put it
Mhm.
into practice, the damage bonus from the skill is not that
Not
not
quite
that
enough.
beneficial. Yeah,
Gotcha.
so it kind of falls in this weird medium in the middle where it doesn't have enough HP and it doesn't have like enough speed. It's just kind of left there in the middle.
Hmm. Oh, I'm
And
seeing
then
I'm seeing a good number of people showing up to say hello. So hey
oh,
everyone,
awesome.
welcome to the stream. We are just going over the different classes. For those just tuning in, we've got Darkroamer, a pro master breeder. He's humble. He doesn't want to refer to himself as a master, but I believe he is.
Okay,
He,
okay, I'll take the title.
what about mechs? You were gonna talk
Yeah.
about mechs?
So mechs are the faster version. I personally believe they're the direct upgrade of beasts.
Hmm.
They're faster. They don't do as much damage because the caveat with the secret classes is that there's no secret class cards. There's no mech cards. There's no dawn cards.
Right.
But in exchange, it gets a 7.5% bonus on all different cards in that type. So it gets a 7.5 damage bonus for bug cards and beast cards, whereas beast is only beast, bug is only bug. So
Okay.
you do get a bit of versatility there. But specifically with mech, you have lower morale, and in exchange, you have a higher amount of speed. So this allows you to go faster than a lot of those dusks out there because nowadays, it's hard to really beat a Termi with the dust Termi, especially with a regular beast, because dust Termis are 46 speeds, and the max speed for a beast is 45 speed.
And the max speed for a reptile termi is 42, unless I'm mistaken,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, you're correct.
So you're right, pretty much. Well, like this kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier. What any class can do, a dusk can pretty much do better. So a dusk is faster in
It's so
that sense.
strong.
Wow.
Yeah. They have the
It's
same HP as plants, and they have the same speed as aquas.
I see. I see. So you actually brought up something very interesting, something I was curious about, and some of the members of the audience have been curious about as well, and that's the Terminator, the dreaded Terminator. Everyone seems to have a problem with it. People know of ways to defeat it, of course, but I guess what I want to do is I want to kind of ask you a question from a breeder standpoint. How the heck does something like a Terminator even exist or come into existence or thought into existence? Because you look at a reptile and you look at all these parts, reptile parts, but then you look at a Terminator and it's more of a bug. than a reptile? I mean,
Yeah,
it's barely a
speed-
reptile,
okay.
really.
Yeah, barely. So a lot of these builds, how they end up, happening is somebody accidentally breeds it. Like a lot of the time, somebody just accidentally breeds it, not intended at all,
Hmm.
and it sells at the floor. And then, somebody like +1 who's very PvP savvy goes around the floor and checks out what they can find, and they scoop it up. They test it out in PvP, and they find out, oh wow, this is broken. This is strong as hell. And then from there, the breeders pick it up, and then they try to improve it in any way they can. Change out the eyes, the ears, change out certain parts, experiment, put it on different kind of body types. But that's the general gist on how these occur. Sometimes people are theory crafting and then they make their own. Like
Hmm.
I've seen Guru do that multiple times. I did that with the double top bird, the samurai bird. Sorry.
Right.
This actually originally started as just a Ronin bird with a kestrel. And then as I played it more and more, I realized, against aquas, I really need something that can speed up because the aquas have koi. So I thought, what can you do to this bird to make it better and faster? And I was like, okay, let's try putting Arco on it. So it is a big, it is kind of like a laboratory where I'm just experimenting and putting different parts on different Axies, creating Frankenstein's monster.
I know.
But,
yeah, it's that kind of and what you do is you end up creating something that, I mean, sometimes isn't even intentional, but it just comes out like a complete banger, as people like to call it, right? So take me step by step. How, like, let's say you theorize something,
Yeah.
a build that would involve taking skills and traits from one class and mesh it with another. What is your methodology behind that? Like, for example, like you said, anything a class can do, a Dusk could do better. So how would you go about making, like, say, a Dusk with all beast cards, like Hero, Goda?
Yeah. So the general process, the mechanics for breeding is very nice. Whereas when you breed two Axies of different species, so let's say like a beast and a Dusk, you have a 50-50 chance they'll come out as either classes. And generally what I do, especially let's say I want to get a Dusk beast, I try to find a Dusk that has, beast parts as closely similar to the build that I'm trying to create. Maybe I always keep a maximum, especially let's say I have a beast already that has the parts I want. My Dusk, I try to get a Dusk that has 2 of the ideal parts. So let's say we're trying to make this build over here. I would find a Dusk that has Hero, Axie Kiss, and then they could have whatever else for the horn, and then I would read it with that perfect beast over 6-7 times to really increase my chances of getting the desired result. And then from there you would take the best of the batches the Dusk that's closest to the build that you're trying to make, and you do it again and over again with perfect beasts until you finally get that optimal result.
Okay, so you could feasibly make pretty much any build within a given race by that sense.
Yeah, it takes some time depending on what's available in that class. There may not be a lot of Dawn Beast, for example, but you would just take something that's closest to what you're trying to get and just breed it over and over. Like you clean the genes. So I call this like you're cleaning the genes, cleaning it, and you're purifying it to the desired build. And that usually, depending on what you're starting off with as a Dusk or Dawn or whatever class, it could take multiple cycles because you could be working with something really, really messy, basically a floor Axie. But usually it takes like 3 to 4 cycles from my experience.
3 to 4 cycles. Okay. Is there an example of something that you came across that just you have never seen anyone else do before? Was that samurai bird that you came up with?
This one, yeah. Even like if I go on the market right now for these, let me check here.
That samurai bird is something else. That's so cool.
So I'm just bringing up the parts for the samurai bird. If you take a quick look at them, so these two here, both mine. I believe even the ones here are Yeah, so Rain bought this off me,
Mm-hmm.
and then I know this is part of the MTTM squad, so we have some of them in over there in the vault. But like though, this is an example of a build that I created that I pioneered it per se. That's what you can call it.
Right.
Sometimes you don't. It's a risky, definitely a risky investment. I don't even know if it will work. Sometimes, and it's a lot of money just putting it in, trying to see will it come out good, will it work well. And in this case it did. And I know another example is like Guru for MTTM. He was the first one to make the max speed desk tri-spiker. So we're always trying to think of new ingenious builds and theory craft for what we can breed next. What's the next thing we can breed?
I just had an idea. How feasible do you think it would be? All these classes, they have very different strengths and weaknesses each. So what would, in your mind, a Aqua with everything that we had just spoken about, how would that look, and how would it do against Aquas that are suddenly faced with a beast that is no longer, vulnerable per se?
Mm-hmm. So you kind of turn it into a different kind of playstyle, especially when it comes to like beast on an Aqua. I can see it playing a lot more like a brawler than it would as a glass cannon. Mm-hmm. So you change a bit of the beast ends up playing a lot differently than what it originally was, because it goes from being this high damage glass cannon that's main goal is just to burst the front door, and then that's its whole job. It dies after that. To now you have something that can sustain 1 to 2 turns to really stall out time and still dish out that same amount of damage. So I definitely think there's a lot of potential when you switch up the set builds on different classes, and it's very interesting what people can come up with.
Incredible.